Let's hit the high road. Let's hit the high road. It's the first touch, strong connection. It lays deep in your soul. Feel the kindness strongly coming, 'cause you can achieve your goal. Let's hit the high road. Let's hit the high road. Let's hit the high road.
Hi, this is Nancy Yeareld, and welcome to Nancy's Psychic View on the high road to humanity. And today we have David, and it's a Gaggin?
Gaggin.
Gaggin, okay. And it's our external existence, you guys. This is going to be a really fun show. We're going to talk about why we're here. And, we're going to talk a little bit about death, and we're going to talk a little bit about life and reincarnation and all those cool things. And this guy really has a wonderful background. And I just want to say welcome, David, to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy you're here. And before we get into it, guys, I just really want to bring up what's happening in Israel. This is the headline. This came from NPR. And mediators work to extend Israel-Hamas truce as final planned hostage swap nears. This is some crazy stuff going on here. And there is a temporary truce between Israel and Hamas, and it's set to expire today. But mediators in Qatar are trying to extend it for at least another 48 hours. I'm going to tell you what I think about this. I think this gives Hamas a chance to reposition themselves. And this really makes me a little bit nervous. But on the flip side, I'm really happy to see that so many people were released. Now, they say 30 Palestinians were held in Israel prisons, and they were released also. But there's still a lot more hostages, and I won't get into the whole thing, but what I'm seeing and what's coming across the news is a lot of these hostages that were held by Hamas were mistreated. And so you guys will have to check that out, but I want to send prayers to both sides, to the Palestinian people and to the Israeli people. And let's hope that they can do something about the terrorists that are over there. Do you want to say anything about this, David?
No, I mean I agree with it. It's a complete and total tragedy.
It
But
is.
that we live in a time where sadly this is this is happening all over the place. You look at the Ukraine, you look at down in Africa all the time. We don't see as much of it as we are seeing in Israel right now, in Palestine. But it's a difficult time for humanity right now.
It really is. And, I'm glad we're talking about it, because I don't think, of course, I believe, this is my own feeling, I think we don't really know what's going on behind the scenes on all this stuff. I think we only get little bits and pieces, and we receive what we were supposed to receive. But intuitively, I think there's more behind the curtain than what we're being shown.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, honestly. But we're glad you're here today. And, David received a BA in mathematics and a BS and a master's degree in electrical engineering, you guys. He spent 16 years designing and managing flight control systems, avionics, and cockpits for the Boeing company. He then joined the U.S. government senior executive service, where he spent 9 years in various director positions for the U.S. Army and NASA's Electronic Research Laboratories. You've got quite the background, I have to say. For the last 16 years of his business career, he was the CEO of Cobham Defense Electronic Systems at CDES Corp, a company he founded and grew into the world's leading defense microwave corporation. You'll have to tell us about that. And he was the first employee at his retirement CBES that had over 3,500 employees and $1 billion in annual revenue. Wow. I will say that after retiring, he wrote The Endless Journey. So if anybody's read that, it's a metaphysical book on the nature of reality. And he's been on a lot of radio shows. He has this huge background. I won't read the whole thing, but you've been on a lot of radio shows. You had your own radio show yourself. You're really into this. And now you've written this book. And I got to tell you, this is pretty deep.
It is.
It really is,
It
David.
requires you to pay attention if
It
you're
really
reading
does.
a
Well,
book.
that's okay. It's good. David, tell us your story. What prompted you to research for these answers? You were raised an Episcopalian, from what you say.
I was, and
Yeah.
science was my bag. So that's how I started out. My father, who always read unusual things, he got me into reading things like Velikovsky and Aku Aku and about the pyramids. This is back when I was in high school, and I was
Oh,
thinking, boy, how strange is this world? I had no idea what was going on, but he kind of drew me into an interest into this. And again, Episcopalian. I remember myself sitting in church one day, looking around, and I'm probably 14 or something, and I'm thinking, I don't know what the answer is, but this isn't it. So I've always had an interest in what's going on. Who am I?
mm-hmm.
Why am I here? What
Yeah. Yeah.
what are we supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
And but I had to make a living, so off I went to college and popped out an electrical engineer and went to Boeing. And you told the story, but I did that for 42 years, and finally I decided enough is enough. I'm bailing out of this. But all of that time, I did a lot of travel. I was in a lot of hotel rooms by myself at night. I was in on a lot of airplanes and such. So I had a lot of time to research.
I see.
So I read everything I possibly could about really everything. I got into philosophy, and I read I read, from Plato to Emerson and all the Eastern philosophy, Lao Tzu
Yeah.
and such, and
Did you
certainly
do
I
the
got.
Bhagavad Gita?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh, I
I
thought
know.
that
Me
was
too.
that was one of the best.
I
Oh
know. It's
yeah,
interesting, huh?
I know. I
Yeah.
read the Mahabharata, which
Okay, I haven't read that.
well, the Bhagavad Gita is a chapter in the Mahabharata.
Oh.
And it's the Mahabharata is a hugely long book, and
Oh.
I could only find one translation that translated. Oh, I guess it was the first 6 books, and there's 10 books in this thing, and I cannot, and I so I can't read Sanskrit. So I've read, you had to read, just a summary for the last part of it, but it's a fascinating book, as you can imagine if you read the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, well, that's what
Uh,
I'm really intrigued. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So anyway, it was fascinating, and I went through all everything that I could think of, and hypnotic regression. I got into the psychiatry, and out of body experiences and remote viewing,
Yeah, I
and then of
saw
course.
that. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I saw that Mark Anthony wrote in here in your book for you.
Yes, I
Yeah,
had.
and he's been on my show several times. Yes.
Yeah, Mark's a great guy. He was on my show a couple times too.
That's pretty
And
cool. Yeah.
yeah. So I just, I was just fascinated by it all, and then I, I had some ideas that I wanted to put pen to paper, but it took me 6 months from when I retired in a number of years ago until I could even start. It took me 6 months to get the business world out of my head,
Mm.
and then start doing. I was always fascinated with it, but I couldn't figure out how to organize it. You have all this information in your head, and you're trying to put it on a piece of paper so somebody can understand it. So you're starting with a blank page, and you say, "Okay, this is what I believe." I found it challenging.
Okay, I have a question right off the bat
Yes.
here. So did you ever meditate? Did you begin to meditate after reading all of this literature?
I did.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
I meditate.
Okay.
I'm not as good at, I can't do out of body experiences and so on and so forth, although I do know people who can do that. But yeah, it's an interesting.
Well, is that how you channel a couple entities?
I didn't channel them. Shepard Hoodwin channeled Michael, and
Okay. What about
and
Seth?
Jane Roberts did Seth, and Seth, Jane Roberts has written a number of books about it. She died a number of years ago, And so Seth was a huge source of information and he had a totally different approach than Michael did, the Michael entity. And so they're both in the causal field, so that they come down and they're if you find somebody that can channel them, you can go in and you can ask them all kinds of questions. And I had Shepard on my show a couple of times, and then I had a lot of sessions with him afterwards, and we, talked to Michael, and he's interesting because Shepard doesn't know what, exactly what he knows what you're saying afterward, while you're doing it, but he's really kind of on the side as a channel, and he'd come back and he'd say, you're the only one that ever asked these esoteric questions. Everybody else wants to find out about themselves. You want to understand how the world works. He says it's fascinating. I've never really run into that.
Well, cool. Now, who was? Did they say who they were? Like, who was Michael? It wasn't the Archangel, was it?
No. It's an entity, and an entity is a group of 1,000 souls that I mean. There could be an entity, there are entities, and we're part of an entity, but these are entities that have finished the physical cycle and have finished the astral cycle, and they're right now in the causal field. And the causal field, they do a lot of interface with the physical field. So you're more likely to have an interface with some organization, some group in the causal field. So it's one of 1,000, and you never know who it is, because who you're going to be talking to, because although they interface with each other and such, they use the name of the last one that was on the physical field. The last name of the last person that finished the physical cycle, that's the name that they use.
That's interesting. Well, I channel Archangel Gabriel, but I am a messenger and he's the messenger angel, and I'm more of the angelic type. And so my angel stands right next to me and I communicate with her all the time. Now, this didn't happen overnight. It took a long time, but I believe that, and I'll just throw this out there, because I'm probably on my angel thing right now because I'm going to do some speeches, but we all have a guardian angel. And I think it's up to us, like you decided to make contact, to communicate. And it's the same thing that I have done, and a lot of people have done in different ways. They have spirit guides. And I just communicate with my angel. And it took, I think, having faith and believing in order to make that connection. What do you think?
I think you have to have a belief if you're going to make a connection like that, without a doubt.
Yeah. Now, what you talk about in here, and I totally believe it, is thoughts have power. And I want you to address it because I am huge on the spoken word. I believe that whatever we say, whatever we think, whatever we feel goes out into the universe, and the universe complies. But you talk really about the thoughts. So tell the audience a little bit about
we are a mind. That's all we are. We appear to be a physical entity, and we create this physical symbol of ourself, but we're really a mind, and a mind has two products, thought and emotion, and that's it. So everything that you and I see when we look out the window or around us, it's basically a manifested thought. So the thoughts are created, and we create them. And it's really our soul that creates the world around us. And what the soul tries to do is tries to give us the experiences that we want. We do a pre-life plan. So the soul says, this is what I want. Right. And then it creates this personality and this ego, and nobody can control the ego or any other consciousness. So the ego goes off into the physical world and is focused in the physical world and has no memory of the pre-life plan or the experiences that the soul wants. So the ego goes and kind of does its thing. Well, the soul encourages the ego to do what it wants, but it doesn't have to. So for the soul to give the ego what it wants, the experience that it wants, it looks at its beliefs. And so it's your beliefs and my beliefs that get manifested by the soul. So the problem here is a lot of times we don't know what our beliefs are. We have these root assumptions that are buried within us that we
Right.
grew up with our
Or
parents and
somebody
such like
told
that.
us. Yeah, I just want to
Exactly.
interject, right? Because, here's what I think, and here's what I've had to do, and I've taught the audience too. I've had to reprogram, and I'm still working on reprogramming because from our childhood, until we start to look for the seekers, start to seek, we are programmed with the information that was given to us until we question it and then change that programming. And I really feel that as people are waking up right now and starting to realize this stuff, that they are reprogramming, because I have to, I can only speak for myself. I was saying things, I started to recognize things that I would never say with my mom or my dad. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah.
I,
So do you see that a lot too?
yeah, I think probably one of the hardest things that you can do in life is to change your beliefs,
Yes.
especially your core beliefs and your root assumptions. That is a very difficult thing to do. But
Yes.
once you realize the problems they are causing you, then you are motivated to start looking at yourself and looking at what you believe and to start changing them. One good place to start is self-limitation. If you any belief that limits you is not a correct belief. In other words,
Yes.
if you think you're going to be poor all your life,
You will be.
well, you will be, yeah,
Yeah,
because
I know.
because your soul will make sure you're poor. And if you think you're sickly, you will be. Your
Right.
soul will give you the experience that it thinks you want. And that's not necessarily the experience that you do want, because you just got yourself in a bad habit with some of
Okay.
your beliefs.
Well, hold on a minute. No, so we make our plan before we get here, right? So we know
Mm-hmm.
what our plan is, but then yet you're saying the soul, we do have free will, and the soul wants to push us to what we want, but maybe what we want isn't good for us. So is that where the higher self or God comes in and says, wait a minute, we need to make a change here? Because I really believe, I'll just tell you this, I was at a bad spot, and I think the angels really helped me out of it. So I do believe that we have help if we want it, if we ask for it. What do you think?
I think the last thing you said is the key. If we want it, if we ask for it,
Okay.
but if we don't, then we will get, we will go in the direction that we've chosen to go in until we decide to change it. Now, I think our intuition, I think there's a lot of people, like a lot of souls, for example, like our spirit guides and our inner soul, that are encouraging us to do other things. Nobody is here to be a terrorist. Nobody has a pre-planned life to be a terrorist or a criminal or anything along that line. But they get caught up. They're younger souls. They get caught up in things that happen to them, and they lose their way. One of the things that will happen, I do think that we have an ego that runs our physical life here, and that's the I that you and I think of about ourselves. Well, that I can change, and because we can put our soul can put another ego in there, so there can be another dominant ego. We have a lot of less dominant egos that can take over, and I think if things get too bad, the soul will try to fix it that way. On the other hand, if it doesn't think it can fix it, you'll find that a lot of these terrorists, a lot of these criminals, they die young. And
Yes.
because the soul says, we're running up some karma here, I think we better get out of town and try this one all over again with a different set of energies. So I think yes, we are encouraged. Unfortunately, we don't listen, but we do have help.
We do have help. Yes, I know we have help. And the other thing is I want to talk about the ego. Because I can only speak for myself, and people I've interviewed on the show about the ego, but personally, I think we need a little bit of ego to keep going, to be here, to show up in the world. But we've got to learn that it's not all about us. It's about other people, and it's about the universe, and it's about us as a collective. And I think it's a change of mindset. Like you can have an ego, but not to the point where you're obnoxious or you're harmful to another person, or it's, you're not helping the collective, or you're not working with the divine. And you don't like to say God either, by the way. I wanted to bring that up, and I was going to ask. So that's a two-part.
That's a two-part question. Let me start with the ego.
Okay.
I use the term ego different than you do.
Okay.
The way I'm using the ego, and I explain it in our eternal existence, is that we have a consciousness, and our consciousness has three focuses that I point out, has other focuses, but it has three main focuses. One is the ego, which is a piece of our consciousness that is focused on the physical field. Okay, so it's not a how egotistical are you? It's a piece of our conscious that allows us to function in the physical field. Then we have a subconscious, and that runs our body. And it also, that subconscious has within it all the past life consciousnesses that we have. And that's why you can do past life regressions, because all that information is in your subconscious. And then the third part is the inner conscious, and that's basically the soul. So when I say when I talk about the ego, and I talk about it in the book, I'm talking about the consciousness within us that's focused on this field, this physical field, and doesn't remember the pre-life plan.
Right. No, don't you think we're getting nudged? I think the COVID really nudged everybody to wake up and to start paying attention and start to think outside the box and start to get more, I say spiritual, or, start to look for answers like you do. What do you think? Do you think, I see a change. I see a change in people right now. I see people starting to question things.
I agree with you. I think we are progressing spiritually as a humanity, if you will. And and some of us are going a little faster than others, and some of them are behind and kicking and screaming and don't want to change. But they'll come. As they get older and wiser. Michael says that there are no more. There's 5 different ages of souls that inhabit this, our planet here, and the very youngest are the infants, and level 1 infant is the very youngest. And he says that there are not any more level 1 infants coming on to this planet. If you and there, we've reached a point where I think the spiritual world is a bit worried about the aggression level that it allows us to have as free will. So it's saying, okay, we need to get this society
Take it up a little
lot
bit
wiser. Let's kick up the
let's take it up
the
a
average
notch.
here. Now you asked me about God.
Yes.
And I use other things because God has a connotation to me that religion has given it, which is basically this old man that judges you when you die. And my view is the universal consciousness, or the Tao, or all that is a easier way to explain what's going on in the world. And we are part of that universal conscious. So we are part of God, if you will, if you want to use God. I don't have a problem with God.
Yes.
All I'm saying is that we're a part of it. And I just try to, it's simply semantic so that people understand what I'm talking about a little bit easier than getting into what they may have had beliefs and concepts over.
Right. Through your research, I'm just curious because I know we all have the little spark of God in all of us, and that's how we are able to create and manifest. And that's what makes us really special. And that's what makes us human. And we are here evolving. But as we evolve, and I personally, when I meditate, and I talk to God all the time, or spirit or source or whatever you want to say, and I don't think it's my higher self. I think I ask for information, and I have a good relationship. You can say entity or whatever it is, but I know, this is me. I know when I leave here, I'm going back to that source, to that creator, because that's where I came from and that's where my home is. What do you feel about this whole situation? Do you connect? Do you have a relationship with the divine source, with the light?
Yeah, I think everybody does to a certain degree.
Thank you.
And you know, we have spirit guides, and if you believe Michael, most people aren't. The spirit guides are underemployed because people aren't listening to what they're saying.
Right.
But you know, it's yeah, I think we do. You can get your soul to solve your problems, and you know, and your soul is all part of the, you know, the spiritual world. But you know, you can, if you lie there at night and you think of and right before you go to sleep, you say, you imagine that, you know, what you want to solve and what you want to be like, and you picture yourself. Say you got a bad arm, and you know, you're not playing tennis anymore, so you picture yourself playing tennis, and you make sure that the soul knows that, wait a minute, that's what he really wants to do.
Yeah.
So they'll go and they'll fix the arm for you, and or the leg or whatever. You can get them to solve your problems, and you can get them to solve your problems in your dreams too. You can you know, you can, if you need to make it clear what you want the soul to do, and the soul is here to try to help you have your existence.
That's why this is really interesting. We're having this conversation, David, because this is why I'm trying to, I am teaching people how to connect with their guardian angel, because we all come in with one and we all leave with one. And this is our right-hand person. You can say, and you can do it with spirit guides. I like the angels because they have a higher frequency, and I feel secure. But it's cool to know that you have somebody standing right next to you who's got your back, and that will
Right.
help you, and that will always be there for you. And you know, I feel like, and I want to know your thoughts on this, I feel like society has just dumbed that down so that we didn't recognize it.
I think that's true. I think it's been going on for a long time.
I do too.
I think you know, you look at the some of the creators of the religions, Krishna and Buddha and Christ. You know, they all talked about this, and then the trouble is, mankind got involved and dumbed it down and tried to take over and
Manipulate.
exactly manipulate
Yeah.
and get something out of it that maybe they shouldn't have been.
Right.
But all of it, you go back and you study the origins of all of these religions, they're saying the same thing.
That's
And
right.
you know, it's you know, it's just been divvied up for political purposes.
Yeah. And so you feel the same, that we're down here to learn, and we're here to elevate our soul. And then we go back to where we came from, and then we decide what we do from there. Is that what you pretty much
It's like we're on a business trip,
Yeah.
right? You take a business trip, and then you say, okay, this is my plan on the business trip. This is what I'm going to do. It's going to who I'm going to see. It's what I'm going to try to accomplish. Then you go on the business trip and you find some things that don't go exactly like you thought.
Right.
So you have to deal with them, right? You have to deal with those things, and then you deal with them as best you can, and then you go back and you try to digest what happened on the trip, and then you set up and you have another trip.
Yeah, I don't want to have another trip.
You may not, but you know, we have a lot of trips. So
I'm telling you, I'm hoping this is my last trip. You know, excuse me, something in your book, and there's so much in here, you guys. I just want to say, here's the book. Here's what it looks like if you're watching me on YouTube. It's our eternal existence. It's a metaphysical perspective of reality, and it's by David Gaggin. And but what really hit me in your book as I was going through it is the death and timing. I want to talk about this, and we've got a little time on the show. You know, you say our birth and our death are sublimely timed by the universe, and I believe that. And death provides an opportunity to reset our priorities, just like you and I were discussing. But you give, what are there? I think there's 9 or 10 different, you know, scenarios. And the first is when we are synchronized with our life plan, and if we are accumulating large amounts of karma, then we'll die.
Right. Well, then we're liable to be helped off the scene and brought back to the business world, and
Right.
and explained that that's not exactly what we planned on that business trip.
Right. Now, the second one I thought was cool too. It was interesting because, we feel a lack, if you feel a lack of love, you may choose to return to the spirit world. And I can relate to that. It wasn't until, and I'll just say this, I had a narcissistic mother, but it wasn't until I connected with the divine really and have this relationship that I really felt the love. And I think a lot of people don't know how to do that. And there's so much hate and fear and anger on the earth. I think this may happen to a lot of people where they don't.
I think it does, and it's not just people; it's animals too.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Oh yeah, it's animals too. It's
Right.
yeah, it's we need the love. One of the things that we're learning here is to put love back in our life. When you go
Yes.
to the astral plane, you feel this euphoria of love. Well, we don't have that feeling here, and that's one of the things that we're being taught to understand and learn and put back into our life. And when we don't succeed, then after a while we get discouraged and move on.
Yeah.
We
I just thought this was real. I thought this part of your book was really interesting. I hope you don't mind if I go through these.
No.
The third is the body may have lost usefulness as a learning and experiencing tool. So if you feel like you're not learning anything, you're not gaining any more knowledge.
Yeah, and that's generally when you're either old or sick, and you've gotten to the point where you really just can't. Get things accomplished and have the experiences that you want to have. So then you'll bail out.
Okay, now this one this is a two-parter because you say you may have completed your plan. Now, what I'm going to ask you, and you may or may not know this, I had someone channel one time for me, this is years ago, and they said, Nancy, you had 3 different plans. You're starting your third. I accomplished my first and my second, and now I'm on my third. Have you heard that before?
Sure.
Okay.
That
Tell the audience. Let me get
it. Your plan has a whole bunch of things in it.
Okay.
So the chances of you finishing your plan would be really towards the end of the lives that you're going to do, because there's always other things that you can do, or almost always. But you get, there's certain things that you might say, hey, this is what I wanted to accomplish. The soul says this is what we were trying to do, and by God, you did it. But it's not the normal thing. It wouldn't be, the average person saying, boy, I had such a great life and I'm done with everything. This is that particular one that I put in there was to try to cover all bases. But most of us, we have so many things that we can do next that wouldn't be a normal way to end a life.
Okay. All right. I just that intrigued me. Okay, the 5th is inner consciousness might use its death to protest conditions it feels intolerable. So if you're in a really bad relationship, or if you're in prison or something like that, is that what you mean by that?
Or living conditions in that particular culture are unacceptable.
Okay.
And so you would likely, you could say, hey, I'm bailing out because of this.
Okay. Or experience from a different perspective. If you don't, which I thought, so you didn't like your perspective, so you want to die and go back and look at other things. I don't know. I don't get that one.
We come down here with biases. All right.
Okay.
We have attitudes. We have goals. We have characteristic obstacles that we want to try to work on. And so we come down to look at the world from a certain perspective.
Gotcha.
And when there will be a time that we could say, hey, we've seen the world that we're looking at from this perspective. Now I want to go back, change my biases, and come back and look at the world differently. For example, we come down here, and right now the hot item is liberals and conservatives, right? You're either a liberal or you're a conservative, that we're told. Okay. Well, and
that's the key word. I'm going to stop you. We're told. That was
exactly
the key word right there.
That's what the media tells us.
Yeah.
So anyway, we come down here and we have a certain perspective, and it's biased in a certain way, and we think that's the right way. somebody else will see the same set of circumstances, but they'll be biased differently,
Mhm.
and they'll think that you're 100% wrong and it's some other way. Well, the fact of the matter is, if we were a liberal this time, we were either a conservative the last time or the next time, and vice versa. So we go back and forth just to try to have different perspectives. All we're doing is
Okay.
having experiences and having perspectives,
Okay.
and the soul is setting us up to see our experience in one direction and from one perspective, and then it'll want to know about it from another perspective.
That's
May
interesting.
not be your next life, but it will
Yeah.
be some life.
Some life. I like that you say we come down with attitude.
We do.
Because I
We
think
do.
I did. I know I did. That's
But
funny. Okay, so the seventh is when you just get old and you die, and that's it. And that's a natural one. And then the
well,
eighth one is once the body reaches a certain pain threshold, and that's if maybe you're in an accident or you're ill. Is that correct?
yeah, and you see that in outer body or near death experiences,
Right.
where the individual who dies and comes back, because that's why it's near death, they'll tell you that they have left the body just before the accident occurred. Now,
Yes.
when they come back in, they've got this all beat up body, but they've agreed
Right.
to do that, right?
Right.
If somebody's going to get shot, somebody dies, something along that line, generally the soul the soul will get the ego and the subconscious out just before the pain hits.
Wow, that's really interesting. And I believe that. I agree with you on that one. Okay, and then some deaths are involved with karmic ribbons.
When we interfere with somebody else's choices, when we interfere with somebody else's free will, then we owe them the energy that they put into that life.
Okay.
And that's what is known as karma. So there's a karmic ribbon that is tied between the two people. So my last life was a karmic life. I was a Japanese soldier that was blown away in early part of World War II,
God bless.
and it was a karmic life. And so
Okay.
I had to learn. So apparently somewhere along the line, I did that to somebody else. So I had to learn the lesson that they had to learn. So you can have karmic lives, and you can have a lot of karma that doesn't kill you, but you can
Right.
also have karma that does.
Right. Now I've had someone tell me that in biblical times, I was in biblical times and I did something. I don't know what I did. It was when Jesus was around. So I probably, I've got such a strong, powerful personality. I probably did something like, hey, but they said to me, and this was interesting, and it kind of goes with what you're saying, is that I had to climb back up the ladder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're saying that we're always climbing back down and climbing back up. It's a constant, like with each reincarnation, it all depends on what you did, and then you're coming back. But the goal is, I just want to throw this out there, is to get back up the ladder so we go back to source, right?
Right. You have to get rid of your karma before you do it.
Right.
But there's getting back to source is a long task. We all work our way up. And then when you get back, eternity's not over. So then you have to say, now what are you going to do? You want to go back and do another cycle through the fields of creation? Do you want to start this over again? Or do you want to go get involved with a star and try to run a star? What do you want to do?
Yeah,
And
I think it's cool.
yeah, it is. So we do have choices. We came here because we chose to come here.
Right.
Nobody forced us to come here. This was our decision. And on some days you might say, what the
Really?
hell was I thinking?
Yeah. No.
But you get but we have free will. We
We
choose
do.
to
We do.
come here. We chose that,
I'm
for
going
better
to
for
say,
worse.
yeah, I agree with you. But, I feel like, and I want to know what you think, I feel like every time I get over another hurdle I feel freer. The more freer I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you have an experience,
Yeah.
and what I found in my world is that I would have an experience and things would be going along smoothly, and all of a sudden things would start getting difficult and annoying, and I wasn't happy with that, so I'd make changes.
Right.
And these annoying things weren't happenstance; they were planned, so that
Mhm.
I would get myself
Move on.
to
Yeah.
go do something else. Like when I left Boeing, then I went to the government. The government was great, learned a lot, did a lot of things, and then all of a sudden, it got tedious and tiresome and annoying, so that I went and built another company, and then and everything has its time, and
Mhm.
you have to listen to your intuition. You have to listen to what's going on, but
Right.
you can look back at your life and break it up into segments, and the segments can be relationships, they can be jobs, they can be locations, they can be all kinds of things.
Family. Yeah.
Family, yeah.
Yeah.
And you look at that, and you can and then you could see what you learned in that period, and then that ends, and then you start another period, because you're trying to work on your next experience.
Right. And I think it's great. And that's right. That's how I feel, And if you don't, okay, I'll just say this one more time. If you don't do it, like I was in a relationship and I wasn't getting out, and the angels, like they intervene. God, angels, your God, they will intervene to help you move forward. And whether it's a job or whether it's a relationship, they just do. And I know that for sure because I've seen it, I've witnessed it. It's just kind of crazy. This is a sad part, but I want to talk about suicide. Because I've always felt that if you commit suicide, you don't complete your plan. You're just going to come back and have to do it again. What did you find out with your
Exactly.
yeah,
You're going to have to come back. You can't run away from your problems.
no.
And if you committed suicide, it's because of a set of problems, and
Right.
those problems have to be dealt with one way or the other. So you're going to have to come back, and so your soul is going to have to create another personality, and you're part of that personality. Your past lives are part of who you are today, and you're going to have to go back and deal with those issues. That we can't run away from our issues. If we
Right.
have problems, we got to deal with them. And suicide is never the right answer. It's never the right answer.
I agree. There's a lot of information in here and there's so much research. I mean, we could do a 5-hour show and not get done with all of it. But I just want to know through all your research, what was the most eye-opening thing for you that you didn't know?
Well, the most is a challenging thing, because there's all kinds of stuff I didn't know. I think the fact that we control our own life, and it's our beliefs that are causing our problems and our successes, and that it's easy to think of yourself as a victim, and you say, well, it's my parents did this to me, or the government's doing this to me,
Yes.
or my spouse is doing this to me, or whoever. And what you realize, what I eventually realized, was that I was doing everything to myself. Nobody is doing anything to anybody. You're doing it all to yourself. And once you realize that, then you
Yeah.
can change it. But if you don't realize it, you just keep doing it to yourself, and
Yeah.
it makes you sick. You can make yourself sick. And matter of fact, most of these sicknesses are because of our activity, our actions. We cause this stuff. We attract it to us, and our beliefs will attract this stuff to us.
That's right. Because our soul thinks that's what we want, because that's what
Exactly.
we're
That's
thinking.
the experience we want. That's
Yeah.
what it thinks. So if we're focused on it, then that's what's going to happen. If you have a parent, or especially two parents, and they both got cancer, and you're sure that you're going to get cancer, so
I
what do
know.
you do?
And once you get this stuff and you hear people talking about it, you're like, no, don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that.
I know, so you look at you look at all the ads that you see, and they're all about how to prevent cancer, and if this cancer, and you get on television, and they'll tell you, hey, if you sneezed last night, you more than likely have cancer today,
Yeah,
and so you're thinking about it all the time. Well, you attract it to you.
right.
And I was on a show the other day, and somebody asked what I thought about family curses. And I said,
Don't curse.
yeah, curses don't exist. All has
No.
happened is somebody has given you some core beliefs,
Uh-huh.
and you focused on you as a child. You got them early. You focused on them, and you created and manifested the phenomena for you this time around.
Right.
So
Energy goes where energy flows, where your attention goes.
it does, without a
Yeah,
doubt.
it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. While you're talking about this, I'm thinking every day's a new day. It's really interesting how God set this up, or spirit, or whatever you want to say. But each day you can start over. Each day you have an opportunity to do it different. Each day you can change. We have this ability to be whoever we want to be. We create our own reality. It's amazing. Have you created, obviously you've created a new reality for yourself.
I have, yeah. Every time I made a change, you end up creating a reality, and most of my changes have been positive, so I felt pretty good about it. But it's easy enough to to get yourself in a self-limiting mode, and and then if you do that and you find your life isn't going well, you don't have to look anywhere else except inside you to change it. You can make it change, because your soul will change it. It will manifest something that is more likable, more comfortable for you in your life. It will change your life. But you have to ask it. You have to recognize what
Right.
you don't like, and then say, hey, let's get this changed, please. And they
God
will
bless.
change
You're
it.
right. You are so right on. I have to tell, and it took me a long time to get to this.
Yeah, me too.
I love it. I love it. And part of this does come with age, with living, just living, experiencing. And then you start to realize, and like there's a lot of people out there who are looking for the truth. There's a lot of seekers, and there's more and more and more. Do you see that as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the world is improving. It doesn't appear it, because the front pages of the
Yeah.
of the paper, if anybody reads the paper anymore, I'm one of the few old guys that does, but
Yeah.
whatever you're reading, it doesn't look good in the papers, but people are improving. What you don't recognize is that there's 7-8 billion people on this planet, and most of them are having solid, decent, good lives. And so they're improving, they're growing, and more people are coming around and learning. You just don't notice it. But if you look around your neighborhood, you'll notice it. You look around where you are, you'll see that most people in most neighborhoods, not every neighborhood, but in most neighborhoods, you can see that people are going about having a good life.
Interesting. It's interesting. Well, what would you like to leave us with today? We've been here for almost an hour. I can't believe it's gone so quick. Any information that you'd like to share with the audience before we get out of here? You're such an interesting guy. I'm so glad you came on, David.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very glad I came on too. I think basically, if people could just realize that they're in control of their life, that's the one message that I'd leave everybody. You are in control of your life, and if you don't like something that's going on, you can change it, and nobody else can change it. Nobody else is capable of changing your life. You're the only person that can do it, but it is well within your capability. Talk to your soul, believe that you can do it, and make whatever changes that you want to change, and pick something. Start with something. So start with the thing that's bothering you the most, and pick it, and start making some changes.
Yeah, go within. I think I've had so many different people on the show, and you brought it up briefly in our conversation today, where we all need to go within and work on ourselves, things that happened in our childhood, things that happened through our lives, and resolve those issues so we can move forward. Because a lot of times we are stuck in that, we keep reliving the scenarios over and over in our head, and that's where the change has to be made. And you said that as well, to go within, and I think I see that a lot on the
Yeah,
show.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I bet you've had wonderful response on the book.
Well, so far, it only gets released. It got released in the UK last Friday, And it
Okay.
gets released in the US and the rest of the world this Friday, December
Oh,
1st.
you guys, we got it early. Oh, I'll get
So,
the show out right away for us so that you could, for your launch. That's
yeah,
fantastic. I just want to thank you for writing it, putting all this information together. I mean, people need this right now. So God bless for this. Thank you. Thank you. A lot of good information, you guys, in this book. Before we get out of here today, you guys, I'm going to be in LA in February. Come and see me. I'll be at the Hilton LAX. I'll be at the Conscious Life Expo talking about angels and angel communication and spiritual law. Come and get your wings. And then I will be in Florida, you guys, in March. Boca Deerfield Beach, Florida, March 16th and 17th at the New Life Expo. Come and see me. And I just relaunched my book, Wake Up, the Universe is Speaking to You, and I'm working on my new book. So everybody stay tuned. I just want to tell everyone, thank you for supporting us and tuning in today. I really appreciate it. Everyone take care and God bless.